listen. They can't participate, but they'll have the ability to watch and listen. And then when we go on into our closed session, that will be shut off, and it'll just be council and designated. And then when we return to open session after the closed session, we'll be back live streaming. It would be helpful if is everybody familiar with the raise your hand function on the program? So if you want to
Negative.
Is that a negative or a positive?
Negative for Corey.
Negative for John.
No, I don't know.
Okay. Well, maybe what we'll do is I'll do the same thing. Imagine yourself sitting at the council table, and I'll go around the same way we did on the teleconference, starting with Councillor Howie on my left, and then Councillor Timpson, Bath, Fenelon, Cassidy, and Lego, and we'll do that kind of the way we'll do questions. So if you keep your mic muted until such time as you're called, and if you desperately want to speak, if you wave your hand by doing this, I can't see all the separate screens at one time, so I won't be able to get that. If you desperately want to speak and you're not getting attention, if you go to the bottom of the screen in the black bar and just put your cursor in that black bar, you see different functions down there. So there's a chat function. You can click on that and you can either chat, and we shouldn't really use that in the council meeting, but on to the right, if you click on participants, if you click on and it says 15, you should get a bar on the right hand side that lists all the participants. And at the bottom of that, you'll see various choices, and the one on the left hand side is raise hand. So if I click on raise hand, a hand appears by my name on the screen, and then the moderator knows you'd like to speak. So if you can figure that out, that's great. If not, we'll carry on in the usual manner. So, clerk, introduction of amendments to the agenda.
To you, Mayor Lawrence, I have none.
Yep. Hey, Brian.
Well, thanks there, Councillor Fenelon. We have everybody on board now.
We're good. You're good to go. Can you hear it? Just unmute yourself when you have to speak, okay?
Sorry?
You have to unmute yourself when you have to speak.
Okay. Where's that? I can't go. Here.
All set, Councillor Fenelon? So we'll get started and see where we go. So did we have a motion, and I'll do the moved by Councillor Howie, seconded by Councillor Timpson, that we adopt the agenda as presented for the council meeting of April 22nd. All in favor? Silence will indicate carried. All in favor?
Yep.
Carried. Declarations of pecuniary interest.
To you, Mayor Lawrence, I have none.
Thank you. And we'll move into staff reports. There won't be, we're going to, you don't have to lift anything, council. Everything on the agenda is on the agenda. So we'll just go through it in the numbered order that's there. Starting with 4.1, moved by Councillor Bath, seconded by Councillor Fenelon, that the council receives the Treasurer's 2020 budget forecast report dated April 22nd, 2020 as information. We'll call the vote after discussion, and I think we're going to let the treasurer, congratulations, treasurer, on your appointment. Carly Collins, please, the floor is yours.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, we went in, can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Okay. We did some analysis as to what possible effects this COVID-19 is currently having on the municipality right now. And out of those discussions, we wanted to present to you what the 2020 budget forecast may appear to be for the year. So we did two assumptions. One assumption would be if we started roughly back up after Canada Day, and the other assumption was when if we were closed for the full year. So we took into consideration the ban of travel that's currently on board. We took into consideration the layoffs that are currently starting this week. We took into consideration the cuts that each manager is roughly thinking of doing to their department right now in regards to not ordering supplies that they need, putting off certain projects that could possibly be deferred to the summertime or possibly next year. And I came up with a possible forecast as to how all of this is going to affect our 2020 budget. So does anybody have any questions?
So I'll start by going around the table with Councillor Howie.
No, I don't have any questions at this time.
You, Councillor Timpson. And don't forget, if you're muted, you are muted, Councillor Timpson, so just unmute for just
Okay.
Thank you. There you go.
Are we unmuted? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Just wondering if you could explain, Carly, if we're under the municipality, if we're for all programs there, if we open up after June, the deficit is 957,000. If we open up after December, it's 1,299,000, etc. Why is it such a small difference, given that for June we're looking at 3 months closed down for 957,000, whereas if it's up till December, that's 9 months and it's just another 1/3 higher. Can you explain that?
So for the difference between the two, well, if we were to reopen on July 1st, our deficit would actually be roughly $716,000. And then we're looking at, for the full year, we're looking at roughly over $1 million. So the differences takes into effect that we would be receiving more revenue for recreation from one year to the next. We are hoping to receive some additional funding for certain areas that have to do with our within our treasury. So they're not fundings, but the surplus and everything else that would occur in the first draft. The second draft, what we're hoping is that we won't lose as much revenue as anticipated with daycares and items. Some items within the daycare, we're hoping that KDSB will start kicking in, knowing that the school year has started for January 1st, and that they will be giving us extra funding to kickstart our daycares and everything else. And now these are just assumptions as well. I don't know exactly what the effect is going to be on our taxation at the current moment. The taxation, the second due date is at the end of April. So all of these are just current assumptions as to what we're estimating may occur.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's good. Yeah. It just didn't seem proportionate, the between 1 year and 3 months. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Councillor Bath.
No, I don't think I have any questions. I could probably dream up a few if I look at it long enough, but I'm good for now.
Thank you. Councillor Fenelon.
No, I'm good for now.
Councillor Cassidy.
Nothing here.
Councillor Lego.
Yeah, I agree with what Carly was just saying, that we need to wait till the end of April till we get to see what taxes are coming in, and then we can make a projection from that point. Right now, putting out scenarios, they're just scenarios, they're best guesses until the end of April when we start seeing what revenue is coming in. Then we can make a more solid decision going forward.
Yeah, I think that's right. But I think I'm going to say that the template and the format is now open, and it won't take so long once we see those results at the end of April for the treasurer to develop a new projection. And the projection is still, we don't know when the province is going to say we're opening up, and it'll probably open up in stages as well. I imagine there's going to be as much confusion or more in the opening up phase as there was in the closing down phase, depending on how it's all phased in or not, and what services are available. Some services may be available premature to other services. I'm thinking sort of globally in the community as well as just the municipality. But this gives us a good idea that it's not the end of the world. It's not a pretty picture, but at the same time, and we don't in this, Carly, Treasurer, you haven't taken into account any possible assistance that we might get from the province in here. Would you say these are reasonably gloomy projections?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, because the government hasn't stated any additional funds to municipalities as of right now, so it's hard to predict exactly what the government will give. We are tracking additional expenditures because of this pandemic is currently going on. So if the government were to launch additional fundings for municipalities, we will be ready to submit those reports to them. And I'm hoping that we have better numbers after the end of April. Really, the end of April is going to give us a clearer picture as to exactly what's going on.
Very good. I'll just go around one more time before I call the vote to accept this report. Councillor Howie.
No questions. Thank you.
Councillor Timpson.
Just, wait, am I muted?
No, you're good.
Oh, okay. I'm just wondering, will there be an opportunity for us to discuss when we have to look at some cuts? Will there be opportunity for council to have input into what cuts we might consider?
Treasurer? CAO?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I'd like to direct that to the CAO.
Okay, through you, Mayor Lawrence. Staff have already been talking on a regular basis as to what cuts can be made, especially with reference to projects that involve the tax base to alleviate some of those costs. We will be bringing some of those projects forward to council once we have a better idea of our financial position at the end of April. So I anticipate that would be coming to our meeting in May to discuss ongoing projects that could possibly be deferred and have council have input on it at that time.
Thank you.
Good. Councillor Timpson?
Thank you.
Councillor Bath?
Oh, nothing for me.
Councillor Fenelon?
I'm good with it.
Councillor Cassidy?
I'm not good with it, but it is what it is, and I appreciate the time and effort that went into pulling these projections together. It's just kind of good to have an idea of what we're getting into going forward. So,
Thank you. Councillor Lego?
Just a question for the CAO regarding for those that have already been laid off. Is HR keeping up with all of the workers and seeing if, like, hopefully none of them have fallen through the cracks, making sure that they all are getting what is deserved from the government at this time for EI?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, yes, our HR department is communicating with staff on a regular basis with any questions, updates that they need to have. So far, our communications to our staff has gone very, very well with very little questions coming from the staff. So I think the communications that have gone out have been very informative from our HR department. We will be discussing staffing a little bit in closed session with council where I can give a little bit more information.
Thank you.
All right, unless I see a hand madly waving. I don't see any blue hands and I don't see any hands madly waving. So I'll call the vote that council receives the treasurer's 2020 budget forecast report dated April 22nd, 2020 as information. That was moved by Councillor Bath and seconded by Councillor Fenlon. All in favor? Silence will indicate approval. Carried. Item 4.2, ACAP funding. Moved by Councillor Cassidy and seconded by Councillor Lego that council authorizes the passing of bylaw number 46-20, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and the clerk to execute an agreement between Municipality of Sulikout and Her Majesty, as represented by the Minister of Transport, for the purchase of a new electronic runway condition reporting unit. And I'll just go to the CAO and see if their discussion will staff be making a presentation or not? CAO?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, our airport manager is on the call as well, at the meeting. So I will defer that to Ben Handrick if he'd like to make some comments on his report.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence. Yeah, this is something obviously that was well started and ahead of time before all this came down. That's a reason for going ahead with it because we had already agreed to it. In essence, right, we applied for the funding, they sent the agreement, we have to go in. If there's any questions in regard to the report, or if you want to know any more about how this electronic reporting system works, just ask, let me know if there's any further questions.
All right, I'll go around the table. Councillor Howie.
No further questions, thank you.
Councillor Timpson.
No question.
Councillor Bath.
No questions. I'm glad we're keeping up with this stuff. We need to keep up for the airport. One day we'll be back up to 100%.
Councillor Fenlon.
No comment.
Councillor Cassidy.
Nothing here.
Councillor Lego.
No, just it's good that we're keeping up with stuff and it's already been taken care of in our 2020 budget, so it's a go with me.
Good. I don't think I'll go around the table again. That seemed pretty straightforward and echoed the councillor's comments on that. So as moved by Councillor Cassidy and seconded by Councillor Lego. All in favor? Silence will indicate approval. Hearing nothing, carried. Item 4.3. Moved by Councillor Timpson, seconded by Councillor Howie. The council authorizes the passing of bylaw number 43-20, being a bylaw to authorize and direct the mayor and the clerk to execute an agreement between the Corporation of Sulikout and LBCG for the development of a community safety and well-being plan for Sulikout. And CAO discussion.
I'd just like to update council a little bit. Since I wrote the report, the Solicitor General has suspended the deadline date of January 1st, 2021 in order to, sorry, and I just noticed a typo on my report too. That should say 2021 instead of 2020. So this date has been, the deadline has been suspended, and at this time, no deadline date has been given. A number of municipalities, I guess, have been petitioning the Solicitor General saying that given the COVID-19 pandemic, it's a little hard to get these plans done by January. So that date has been suspended since writing this report. We anticipate, if council allows us to award the contract today, we anticipate having our kickoff meeting with the proponent, LBCG Consulting, in the upcoming weeks to start the process. It will be a little difficult to have a lot of public consultation virtually. We're still trying to figure out how we would manage that. Either that or wait till some of the provincial restrictions are lifted, especially with reference to travel and gatherings, and continue the process then. So we may have to take a little hiatus until such time as we can move forward, but we're going to work with the logistics and see what we can get done while we're in the situation we're in.
All right, thank you. I'll go around the table for discussion, starting with Councillor Howie.
None at this time, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Timpson. And Councillor Timpson, are you on mute? I'd have to check.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I was going to ask that same question of do we need to proceed with it now, but it makes sense to, it would, in many ways, it makes sense to carry on because, I mean, I think it would be also very useful if they included in their safety plan the measures that the municipality and the associated agencies have taken during this pandemic. I think that would be a very valuable thing for them to be able to look at.
Most definitely.
Those are my comments.
Thank you. Councillor Bath.
No comments.
Councillor Fenlon.
No comment.
Councillor Cassidy.
I also think that this is good to see it going forward, if it's all at all possible with the restrictions in place. We know we're going to have to do it eventually, so if we got everything in place, let's just do what we can now. So it's going to be less when we hit a bottleneck down the road with everything if we have to postpone. So it's good to see.
Councillor Lego.
Yeah, just, I like the fact that the LBCG is bringing in Kizak health strategies from Red Lake. It's good to have the First Nation perspective going forward with this plan. Just some questions in regards to the one-time funding. If the CAO can answer this, is the whole amount being funded through the one-time funding, or is it through the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund? And then I believe that we put through on the budget the difference from that. It was 37,000, and then we put in 12,500.
I'm not 100%. I think you might be talking about the strategic plan where we had budgeted 10,000 and the remainder came out of the one-time funding. This here would come out of the one-time funding, and then once I can provide an update to council through our treasurer at the next council meeting to see where we're at with the one-time funding. But there was room in order to provide for this study, which was not funded anywhere else through any other avenue.
Okay, it's in part of the report. It shows that Northern Ontario Heritage Fund at 37,500.
That's my report.
Oh, that's your report?
That's Vicky's, yes.
Yes, thank you.
Is that part of this?
No, it has nothing to do. That's the strategic economic development strategic review.
Plan.
Yeah.
Okay,
thanks.
so yeah, getting all these reports is kind of confusing because it doesn't really break anything, and then it sort of runs into the next. So I thought this was part of the community well-being.
No.
I think we're on this while we transition to the new meeting agenda software. In the previous software, you don't open each one up separately, I think. Yeah,
it just got confusing.
Yeah,
I thought
yeah, you're right. I think
Happened to me last time too, Corey.
Yeah,
I got confused with that too. Yeah.
Clerk, could you comment on that?
Yes, through Mayor Lawrence, we're continuing to work to implement the new eScribe meeting management system. Of course, we are down a number of staff at this time, as you know. So we're doing it as quickly as we can, our hope will be that it'll be in place for the June regular council meeting. So hopefully, just one more meeting of having to refer to PDF compiled PDF agendas in May, and then we hope to be back to a meeting system that'll be far more user friendly. We appreciate council's patience.
Could I just make a slight suggestion? If we're going to send these out, could we, instead of merging them all into one PDF, could the copies to council come out for each report as an individual PDF? So that way we have a clear break so we could just open up each PDF for the reports?
Sure, not a problem.
Thank you.
And sorry, one more. And the CAO did state that there's money left in the one-time funding. I know that we put a lot in the 2020 budget that was used up.
Yes, if my memory serves me correctly, when we did the budget, there was approximately $100,000 left over in that funding. So that's where some of this money is coming from.
Thank you very much.
All right, I'll just touch base one more time. Councillor Howie?
No questions right now. Thank you, Mayor Lawrence.
Councillor Timpson?
No, thank you.
Councillor Bath?
Nothing good.
Councillor Fanlon?
No comment.
Councillor Cassidy?
Nothing here.
Councillor Lego?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. No, I think it's excellent that we're moving ahead with this too, and there may have to be a slight either hiatus, pause, or restructuring of how we do it, depending on the ability to do the community engagement and agency engagement, because that's an extremely important part of this process. And I agree with, I'm not sure if it's Councillor Cassidy or Lego or Timpson perhaps said, what we're going through now, what we've been through will be really quite informative in terms of this report, this plan, because what's happened is a lot of, and it happened, it's an ongoing process in Sullivan. This has really put the accelerator down of interagency communication and collaboration, and realizing what different agencies can do and how they can help each other. It's been really interesting to see, and I think that will truly help in this community safety and well-being plan. So I agree with Councillor Timpson's comment there. So this was moved by Councillor Timpson and seconded by Councillor Howie that we pass the bylaw to execute the contract for the community safety and well-being plan. All in favor? Silence will indicate approval. Hearing nothing, carried. Item 4.4. This is an update without a motion, I believe. Update from CIO on awarding contract for a new truck for public works. No motion associated with this, is that right, Clerk?
That's correct, Mayor Lawrence.
Thank you. So CIO?
Thank you, Worship. Through you, Worship, I just wanted to advise Council, since authorizing me with certain duties and power of authority to make certain decisions. The tender closed for the medium duty class size truck 4x4 for the Public Works Department in early April. We received one bid from Maxim Truck and Trailer that met the specifications that our Public Works manager was looking for the department. The approved budget in the 2020 budget for the truck was $150,000 that was being funded through the reserves, and the cost came in at $144,875 plus HST. So when we calculate the net HST, the cost of the truck was $147,000. I'll try this again. $147,500 net HST. So I have authorized the purchase of the truck under that delegation. So I just wanted to advise Council that that has been done.
Thank you. I'll go around the table. Are there any questions? Councillor Howie?
None at this time. Thank you.
Councillor Timpson?
Yeah, did you say the HST was only $3,000 on 144?
The net HST, we receive a 100% rebate
Oh, I got it.
on
Okay.
the GST, and then
Okay.
the provincial portion is approximately 78%.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You good, Councillor Timpson? Yep.
Yeah, that's good, thank you.
Councillor Bath,
No comment?
Councillor Fenelon,
No comment, Kelly.
Councillor Cassidy,
Nothing here. It all sounds good.
Councillor Lego.
Well, the CAO answered my question about it coming out of the reserves, so it's all good. Thanks.
Thank you. So no motion here. We'll move on to item 4.5. Another one with no motion, update on COVID-19 response by the municipality, verbal report by the CAO. CAO?
Throughout this process, council's been receiving regular updates from myself with reference to municipal activities and activities that have happened through various groups that we're having conference calls with. Because this is a meeting that that is being live streamed, I felt it important just to give a quick update as to what the activities that we're participating in as a municipality. So we do, and various staff and the mayor participate in a lot of these weekly meetings. I won't say who participates in what because it varies from meeting to meeting. But the Northwest Health Unit meets weekly on a weekly call with all municipalities, and they provide information from the medical officer of health, Dr. Kit Young-Hoon. She gives weekly stats, and it's also posted on the Northwest Health Unit site. And it's an opportunity for municipalities specifically to ask questions as it relates to our operations or activities happening in our community with other agencies. The Sioux Lookout Ad Hoc COVID-19 Community Response Group has been meeting weekly through conference call. And that group is quite extensive. There's a large one. It started out originally as our emergency control group, and we've added agencies and First Nations representations and tribal councils to these meetings so that we could give weekly updates to each other as to how everyone is doing. As per our meeting yesterday, it looks like everybody is at a stable level with their activities. So we've decided to go to bi-weekly meetings unless it warrants having a meeting earlier. So every agency that's on these calls, some of which include the OPP, the hospital, NAN, NAPS, ARC Emergency Control Group from the municipality, KDSB, ISC, the various tribal councils. So there's quite a group, and it's a good venue to information share and help each other out. If there's any questions or one agency needs help in one area, then others can respond. We've also been participating in the Vulnerable Persons Committee, to which it addresses our out of cold shelter and our people that are homeless and or transient in the municipality. Just a note on that the municipality responded to a request to have the out of cold shelter moved to the recreation center. So that has been operational now since last Wednesday or Thursday. Things are going well. I've touched base with Susan Barkley from out of cold shelter, and she said that things are running well. The reason, part of the reason to move to the rec center is they wanted to keep the actual shelter free for any possible isolation issues that they have, that they may have to isolate individuals. So they wanted to keep that separate from their operations. So that has been going well. Also, weekly calls have been organized through our economic development manager, Vicki Blanchard, with the business community, and she has been helping the business community in a lot of ways in finding out what their needs are, how she can help them, and also promoting different areas in which they can access funding, whether it be grant or loan or help with their employment issues with their staff. So Vicki's been doing that as well. We also, Vicki is also precipitated meetings with our First Nations Friendship Accord members, partners, and those meetings have been going very well, and a lot of information sharing from those First Nations partners as to their activities and what we can do to help them out as well. And from an HR and Treasury perspective, our staff have also been participating with their various organizations to help them out with reference to ongoing issues with labor management, unemployment, layoffs, and also finances from the Treasury end of it. Our airport operations have slowed down somewhat. Latest report from our manager the other day was that we're down to about the 20% level of operations. I just want to remind everybody that there is a provincial fire ban, so no open air fires or fires period are allowed in the province under the emergency control measures that they've put into place. And the province recently announced that they feel that they've reached their peak. They're being cautiously optimistic. So the province is also looking at easing some restrictions in the coming weeks, but it's going to be slow moving because they want to make sure that they don't have a spike in cases again. On the call this morning that we had with the Northwest Health Unit, Dr. Kit Young-Hoon said that the Western Ontario region has not hit their peak yet. It's anticipated that the northern part of the province is about 2 weeks behind the rest of the province in Southern Ontario. Usually that's how the trend goes. To date, there are 16 confirmed cases. It's up 1 from yesterday, and 10 have been resolved in the Northwest region. So overall, we're doing fairly well with reference to the cases in Northwestern Ontario. And as far as the municipalities going, we're still running all departments, but with minimal staff and keeping our essential services going. That's all I have, Your Worship.
We'll go around the table for comments, questions. Councillor Howie.
None at this time.
Councillor Timpson.
Yeah, I wanted to just discuss a little or get a little bit more information on what the park restrictions that we've had here. I understand that the Umferville Trail is open. And I'm just wondering if the Cedar Bay Trail would be eligible for being closed. I noticed it is closed, but it's more, I think it was more the area around the lakeshore that you wanted to close off, and whether that could be left open and, you know, put the barrier across or the sign across where it goes into the lakeshore area. I think the Umferville Trail, I think the reasoning was that, you know, just to give people some outlet, and I think the Cedar Bay one would be worthwhile too. I'm not even sure. I think you mentioned that, Michelle, that you weren't sure whether trails were included in the ban.
Through your worship, yes, we're in the process of having signage made to encourage social distancing on the trail system. At this time, we haven't closed the trail, so we are going to be putting up that signage, Councillor Timpson, at Cedar Bay as soon as it is ready, to allow people to use the trail system, but to respect the social distancing. We did receive advice from the Northwest Health Unit. I forgot to mention that, and I apologize. We did receive advice from the Northwest Health Unit, and they indicated that they didn't see any reason why the trail system couldn't be opened as long as people were respecting the social distancing, because it's important that people, for their, you know, mental health and physical health, that they still be able to get out, but respect the fact that, you know, if you're going for a walk, it's with your family unit, it's not with friends, and so on and so forth. So we will be putting up that signage as soon as it is made available.
Okay. Would the sign prohibiting entrance to that be taken out before you put that sign up, or
yes,
that come
yes.
down now, or?
I can talk to staff. I haven't done it yet, but yes, I can talk to staff to have that taken down.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bath.
Just a comment is that I appreciate getting the periodic and daily reports about municipal activities. I think that's very valuable. Everybody's out of the loop a little bit, except the folks who are right in the loop. So it's good to have that coming.
Thank you. Councillor Fallon.
Yes, for the CAO. There's been talk of the boat launches going. Are they going to go over this year or not?
We haven't made a decision yet, but and I have been in touch with my colleagues in neighboring municipalities to see what they're doing. So far, I know that I had mentioned, I believe in one of my communiques to council, that we may possibly limit the amount of boat launches that we open up, but then again, that creates congestion, right? Which is what we want to avoid. So right now we're looking at possibly leaving them open and monitoring it to make sure that the social distancing is being adhered to. When I talk to all of my colleagues in neighboring communities, because they have the same issues as we do, they indicated that they are all so far leaving all of their boat launches open and accessible to the public.
Okay, that'll make a lot of people happy. There's lots of comments about it. Also, people are looking for garbage bag ties around town where you can purchase them. And the only place they can find them right now, and I don't know how many you had, was DJ's.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I can make a comment on that. Last week, we dropped off around 300 sheets to Johnny's. So Johnny's is currently selling the garbage bag tags. Drayton Cash and Carry is as well, DJ's, and the Rexall that's located on 4th Avenue right behind CIBC.
Okay, good, good. I guess my last question is just for the CAO is how many people are using the arena right now for shelter? Do we know that?
I think the last, as per the last meeting we had, there was about maybe 5 to 6 clients. So that number has gone down since the pandemic has started because some of the clientele were from other areas.
Okay. Okay, that's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Cassidy.
I was going to ask about the boat launches as well. That's good to hear. I do echo Councillor Bath's comment about the updates. They've been still very good, and it's good to keep everyone in the loop. So I much appreciated on that. Our landfill, I've been out there a few times. There's still lots of traffic out there. Are we going to change any hours coming? Because we're going to be switching to summer hours here soon. Is there going to be any changes with summer hours, or are we going to maintain the same?
Through you, Mayor Worship, Your Worship, Mayor Lawrence, to Councillor Cassidy. I've had recent conversations with our Public Works Manager regarding the landfill, and we feel that we should be going to summer hours. Part of the activity, the extra activity that's been happening at the landfill is because a lot of people are starting to do self-construction projects, and so they have construction waste going out to the site. So it's been keeping people busy doing jobs within their own homes and around their property. So we plan on calling back one of our staff to be able to facilitate the summer hours because we feel it's needed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lego.
No, I don't have any further questions. Everything's been answered. Thank you very much to staff and CEO, all the effort and putting in for the last month and a bit. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. I can go around one quick time on this one. Councillor Howie.
The landfill site, are we going to consider moving to only accepting electronic payment, debit cards, credit cards, or are we still looking at cash as well?
I've had, through your worship, I've had numerous discussions with our Public Works manager, and he's put into place various precautions at the landfill site, and the staff are not worried about accepting cash at the landfill site at this time. They have to create the distancing, they put the money down, they wash, they wipe it down. They have measures in place to protect themselves. So they feel right now that it's not an issue.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Timpson.
Yeah, well, I wanted to comment on just something I mentioned in the Northwest Health Unit meeting this morning, is that, you know, there are people who are feeling that because we only have one case in Sioux Lookout, that we really don't need to be so harsh about these measures. And the point being that we have one case in Sioux Lookout because of the prevention work that's being done. And I think it's really important that we are able to communicate this to people who are feeling restless and so on, that it's true, and we only have one case, but that's because of our sacrifices. And that sooner or later, they say that 70% of the population will get this virus sooner or later. And that, you know, we're just trying to make it later, spread it out. But that I think these things are important to communicate to people when they are getting really antsy about the kind of restrictions that have been on them. That the more they sacrifice now, the shorter it'll be, and it's not going to be easy, and it's probably going to go on for a long time, from what I can understand from all the presentations I've heard. And but I think that's the kind of thing we as council members are going to be hearing, and will, I think, need to respond to. Thank you. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ban.
Nothing further.
Councillor Fanlon.
I'm good, thanks.
Councillor Cassidy.
Yeah, I had one more other thing to just bring up. Has there been any discussion for any businesses and stuff that are more tourism related if the borders are closed? Like, we have a lot of tourist operators in town, and there's a lot, like, they're dependent on out of country guests to support their business. And if they don't have that, you know, what effect's that going to have on them, especially come after April, and their taxes that are due, that are relied on from these out of province or out of country guests? Is there anything for the tourist industry out there?
Through your worship, I can answer part of that question, and I'm also going to defer to our manager of economic development, because Vicky actually had some interesting conversations with some tourist operators, I believe earlier this morning in a meeting. So to start, with reference to paying taxes and water and sewer billings, what we're doing is dealing with those on a case-by-case basis as people, as businesses call in. So our treasurer is dealing with those as people call, and we're putting in certain measures to try and assist them to make those payments, encourage some payments, if not, you know, encourage some payment versus no payments, because we don't want this to balloon at the end of all of this, but also recognizing the fact that they're having trouble with their cash flow because their businesses are closed. So the Treasury Department is working with businesses in that respect. And what I will do is turn it over to our Economic Development Manager, because she has further comment with reference to the impact to the tourist industry for some of these outfitters.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lawrence. Yes, we are watching very carefully the tourism industry. And this morning, I've been meeting every 2 weeks with the regional funders and other organizations like PACE, Northwest Training Adjustment Board, and the Chamber of Commerce. And we have Laxwell Floating Lodges. Andrea has been participating, and she's very active in all levels of the tourism industry and participating in other calls. There is a real concern and a belief in the lodges, throughout the lodges, that they may not see a season this year. May 12th is the date for domestic travel, and May 22nd would be for possible border opening. The problem they're facing right now is they would have to, if they come into the country, they have to still quarantine for 14 days before they come to their place of business. And that they can't see how that's going to be, they can demonstrate that. Secondly, on one of their national or provincial meetings this week, they were also advised that there's a real concern from lodges that if someone from the US comes and stays and contracts COVID-19, that there's a liability. So they're looking into some legal issues there. I've been working with Shay, Curtis September very closely, and I've been putting out about 185 contacts weekly with the updates on the tourism and from the tourism industry. Today I was asked if I could contact the Ontario Chamber of Commerce to find out if there's a one sheet where lodges and all businesses can go to find out where they can access support. There is, they say they are getting up to 10 calls a day, scam calls a day, these businesses. And they just don't know where to turn for support. But we are working very closely with them, and they seem very pleased with that the municipality has taken that leadership.
Any further, Councillor Cassidy?
No, that's very good to hear. I guess maybe that's something we can, or something just to watch going forward, or maybe something that we could include in the update if things change or develop there, something just to be up to speed on, especially since we're coming into their prime season right now. So thank you.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I do have a more recent letter that I sent out to quite a few. I don't know if you just, I think I sent it out Monday, and I do believe that you are on that list, the council. So that's my most recent letter on tourism.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Lego.
No, I don't have anything. I just want to thank Vicky for that update. It's good to hear things are in motion.
All right, we've been around the table twice on this update. I would just add that on the call that the health unit call that the CAO and Councillor Timpson and I were on this morning, the municipal update call, there was a good discussion from Dr. Kit Young-Hun, and the CAO alluded to it about opening for business. In the last couple of days, I've had two calls from local businesses who are anxious about reopening. And one of them suggested that maybe we could open earlier in Northern Ontario, but that's really not the indication from the health unit. If anything, we might open later because of our being 2 weeks behind. We had the advantage of 2 weeks of early closure because we closed at the same time as everybody else and have been really quite well protected. But seasonally, every year, seasonal influenza comes to the Northwest 2 weeks later than it comes to Southern Ontario, and that's their thinking on this, that we'll be at least 2 weeks behind. So whatever they do, they'll do based on evidence and good monitoring and testing. And as to Councillor Timpson's point, maybe Councillor Timpson, I'll make that the topic of my Mayor's Desk article this week, is sort of to help put the municipal message out there that indicates we still need to go slow here. So we'll close off the discussion on the COVID update from the CAO and move to item 4.6, review of suspension of boards, commissions, and committee meetings, verbal update by the CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council had decided to suspend all commission, board, and committee meetings until the end of April. Our council meeting, we won't be meeting before the end of April outside of today unless something warrants it. So I'm requesting that council discuss it and determine if we're going to continue the suspension of the meetings for at least the next month. From a staff perspective, we are requesting that suspension take place for those committees, boards, and commissions, because much like an evacuation, this is added extra workload, and with limited staff, in our offices, we're having to take on extra work. So we're requesting that extension, that it be extended another month till the end of May.
Thank you. I'll go around the table and start with Councillor Howie.
No, I agree with the recommendation of the CAO. Thank you.
Councillor Timpson.
Yeah, I wanted to know whether or not, like the Environment Committee at our last in-person meeting, people were preparing articles that were supposed to go into the newspaper for April for the Earth Day and all that sort of thing. And I'm just, the only involvement of staff there would be approving the articles. Some of the articles are written. I just wanted to make sure if that would be a too much of a burden to, you know, because Brian reads them and approves them for the bulletin. So just wanted to check on that.
So it wouldn't be, you're not suggesting a committee meeting, you're just asking if that committee work can go to the clerk?
Yeah, we decided this in whenever our last meeting was, in March, I think. And so people wrote the articles, but we haven't done anything with them, I don't think. Well, there are a number of articles written, but I don't think they've gone to Brian yet.
So through
I
CAO,
just want to know if we can just carry on with that.
CAO clerk?
I can speak to that, Your Worship, through you, Mayor Lawrence, if you wish. I was contacted by a member of the Environment Committee on Friday of last week and was provided with 3 articles and asked that they be reviewed. It is on my list of things to do this week with a commitment that I get it back to the member before noon tomorrow so that they're able to make the deadline for next week's issue of the bulletin. So that is in progress.
Okay, good.
Anything further, Councillor Timpson?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bath.
So I agree with the CAO's recommendation that we continue with the closure of the committee meetings.
Thank you. Councillor Fanlon.
I'm in agreement with it.
Thank you. Councillor Cassidy.
Yeah, I'm also in agreement with it.
And Councillor Lego. Councillor Lego.
Lost him.
Looks like you disconnected.
Yeah, left the meeting. Okay. We'll see if he comes back. All right. So there's no motion on that. I think you have enough direction. CAO?
Mayor Lawrence, if I may, Council did provide this direction by resolution. So I've drafted a resolution as Council's been discussing it. If I may, I can read that for you.
Please do.
Thank you. So the resolution.
If I might just interrupt, Councillor Lego is back, Your Worship, so maybe he may want to comment.
Councillor Lego, we lost you for a moment. We're just have wrapped up the roundtable for any final comments or questions on the review, the continued suspension of boards, commissions, and committee meetings. And essentially, to the point it came to you as the last councillor, everybody was supportive of the continued suspension. Councillor Timpson had a question from the Environment Committee regarding some newspaper articles, which has been resolved.
Yeah, I heard all that. It's sort of kicking out and then reconnecting. It's done it about 4 times. But I also agree with what the CAO said. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're back to, I think, is it the clerk with the resolution? Is that right, CAO? Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lawrence. The resolution reads that Council directs that its boards, commissions, and committees remain on hiatus for the month of May.
Moved by Councillor Fanlon, seconded by Councillor Bath. All in favor, silence will indicate approval. Carried. Thank you. We have no delegations or presentations, so we'll move to item 6, bylaws. And can I put the motion on the floor first, and then clerk, I'll let you go ahead with whatever you want to do on the bylaws. So moved by Councillor Lego, seconded by Councillor Cassidy, that bylaws number 43-20, 44-20, 46-20, 47-20, and 48-20 be read a first, second, and third time and passed. we're okay with that, Clerk?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, yes. If council wishes, I can speak to bylaw 4820. There is no report on the agenda. However, it cements the earlier decisions made by council and administration respecting relief from certain finance charges and penalties for a period of time. So that's what that bylaw does. It has taken sort of that direction that was given and it amends the applicable bylaws. In brief, essentially, no finance charges on accounts that are overdue for utilities from March 16th to till June 30th. All other accounts receivable for the municipality in terms of regular invoicing that we do, same would apply there from April 1st to June 30th. And the municipal accommodation tax, the establishments that are required to remit it, again, if they're late with their remittance, there won't be financial penalties until the end of June. I just want to see here, as well as for the taxes that become due on April 30th, the second installment of the interim levy. If they are not paid by April 30th, again, there will not be finance charges accruing until June 30th. We would, I suspect that the CAO and Treasurer will have further updates and recommendations for council likely at the May meeting, and council may, if it wishes, make further decisions respecting this financial relief at that time.
Thank you. So, Mr. Clerk, you've changed the format and you've opened the floor, so I'll just have to go around the table with for questions on that. Councillor Howie.
I don't have any questions for this first round. Thank you.
Councillor Timpson.
Did we, I don't think we discussed whether or not we would keep the MAT, or rather defer the MAT tax, did we? Is that something we should be looking at, given that the tourists are going to be in a difficult position?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, staff's thinking at this time is that we're expecting revenues to be down from the MAT tax, obviously, because the number of accommodations are down from what we're understanding. But in terms of the MAT tax, as you will recall, Councillor Timpson, isn't paid by the hoteliers or the accommodation providers, but rather by the people that stay there. So we are seeing a reduction in the revenues. What we're proposing through this bylaw is not to penalize the hoteliers if they're late in remitting those monthly funds.
Yes, I'm just thinking whether or not the MAT tax is going to discourage what little tourism there might be, and whether that's something we should look at some point.
I think we could defer that discussion until later. I think it's paid. Well, I'm not so sure that it's on the table right now. I don't.
No, it's not. I mean, maybe we could see what happens in May, and just see where things are at. I just raised it as something that might be worth discussion at some point.
Okay, maybe clerk or treasurer could monitor if there, or CAO, if there are any inquiries from businesses about that as well, and for discussion later. All right, thank you. Further, Councillor Timpson?
No, thank you.
Councillor Bath.
Just a quick question. It's probably for Carly, and I've been asked a couple of times in regards to paying the property taxes. Are we accepting credit cards now? I know we don't in the past, but for some reason or other, there seems to be a thought that we are now. Can you just clarify that?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, as of right now, we're still not accepting credit card payments for taxation due to the fact that it would increase our fees with the credit card companies as to all the extra costs that it would make the municipality to pay them. As of right now, the credit card companies, through what I've seen so far, are not lifting any sort of changes with what charges are placed on credit cards. They have indicated here and there that they would defer it, but it's not waived. So in the end, we would still be eating, the municipality would still be eating that cost for the extra fees and everything. As of right now, with phone calls that have come into the finance department, there's only been maybe about half a dozen people that have called the finance department to ask whether or not they've been able to put it on their credit card. A lot of people have been using the Dropbox, and quite a bit of people now have been registering for online electronic transfers.
Thanks, Brad.
Any further, Councillor Beth?
No, that was fine. I just wanted to make sure that, I know I've been meaning to call Carly about it and I'd forgotten. So I actually sent these people to her. So I suspect they did it. They did get the answer they wanted or didn't want.
Thank you. Councillor Fallon.
No comment on it.
Councillor Cassidy.
No, nothing here.
Councillor Nago.
No, nothing for me.
All right, so I think we'll end that discussion there unless I see a hand madly waving or a blue one. No. So this was moved by Councillor Lego, seconded by Councillor Cassidy, and all in favor for the passing of the bylaws 6.1. Hearing nothing, carried. We're ready to move into closed session. So I'll just remind the clerk's department to do what you have to do to pause the live streaming. And we're moving into closed session to discuss matters of a general nature at 2:06 p.m. Subject matter relating to a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or be on behalf of the municipality or local board. One item, development proposals supplied in confidence. Item 2, subject matter relating to labor relations or employee negotiations. One item, staff relations. So we need a motion to move into closed session, do we, clerk?
Yes.
Moved by Councillor Howie, seconded by Councillor Timpson, that we move into closed session. All in favor? Hearing nothing, carried. We're now in closed session.
Mayor Lawrence, if I may, we should have, everyone should have received an invitation to move into a private meeting. It should have popped up on your screen somewhere.
Yes, yeah, right in the middle of my screen.
Yeah, so everyone will need to move into the private meeting. I'll just, I'll send that again. iCompass, can you send it to me again? Because I had to come out. I can't get in now. Mark? Great.
Are you not hearing me? Okay, can you hear me?
I can now, yeah.
Hi there. So everybody else has moved into the closed session. I'm not sure why
Well, I went in and I had to come back out because I had to tell them all to go in because they weren't going in. So I need to be invited back in again.
Okay, give me a minute or two, Brian.
Okay.
So there's no option to send him back.
We'll figure it out for you right now, okay? Give us a second.
Thank you.
There you go. In the waiting room, right? No, I can. Putting waiting room. All I see, Mark. Oh, I think he went over.
Oh, he's moved, or he's left the meeting. Can't tell if it's in break.
current balance, and we would like permission, authorization by council to access the 144,000 required to do this redevelopment planning in the event that things move forward in the future, and that we are more prepared to start working on the project. I will also complete a phase 1 application. Government
Looks like we're all back.
I'm not seeing Councillor Fenelon.
There he is.
Oh, okay. There we go. Okay, we're recording and streaming again.
Excuse me, I muted while I had a sneeze. I'm sorry. So we're back to report out from closed session.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, yes, that's correct. And there is one motion arising from closed session. If you like, Mayor Lawrence, I can read it. The motion reads that council authorizes the use of $144,000 from the Land Development Reserve Fund specifically to be allocated for pre-development work at the Bigwood Lake property.
Moved by Councillor Howie, seconded by Councillor Timpson. All in favor? Silence will indicate approval. Hearing nothing, carried. No further reports from closed session. That's it.
That's all from closed, Mayor Lawrence. Thank you.
Thank you. Confirmatory bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council. Bylaw number 45-20 for the April 22nd, 2020 special council meeting be read a first, second, and third time and passed. Moved by Councillor Fenelon and seconded by Councillor Bath. All in favor? Silence indicating approval. Hearing nothing, carried. And that brings us to a motion to adjourn, which thanks very much for a good meeting. I think it went well. Thanks, clerk and CAO and all the staff, Jackie, for putting this together.
Well done putting it together.
Yeah,
very well.
That's nothing on me. That's the clerk's department.
and I see we have Encompass, our host, is back on, or there for help. So that went well. Thank you very much. So motion to adjourn. Did I do that already? Moved by Councillor Lego, seconded by Councillor Cassidy. All in favor? You can indicate your approval by leaving the meeting. Thank you very much. Thank you. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
See you later.